All America, all the time. Sit down, buckle up, and get ready for The Dan Bongino Show.
Team is like, thank you, Mr. President, for declassifying a lot of this. Folks, obviously was like itching to get on the air today. When you go and take a job in the government, especially in the executive branch, the president is the ultimate declassifier. The job is not about you. I don't know if you noticed when I was in there, I did very few media appearances. I think it was 4 or 5. I don't know. Someone fact checked me there. 4 or 5. I didn't do many at all because the job's not about you. When the president's ready to tell the American people about things he chooses to put in his daily agenda, especially things that have been classified by various entities, he will. It's not my job to do that. I don't have the power to do that. Didn't have the power to do that before, but he does. And it's fascinating that he gives this really incredible primetime address, discloses stuff that when I've tweeted to you in the past that just because you don't see things happening, they were happening behind the scenes. I hope now it makes more sense. Someone said, Dan, a lot of people owe you an apology in a tweet thing. Now, I'm not interested in anyone's apology. No one owes me an apology for it. I appreciate it, but I liked it, but no one owes me anything. I understand why people are upset. But I can't unilaterally usurp the president and say, now's the time to run with this stuff. That now that he has, and it's in the public domain, now I hope a lot of this makes sense. When I talk to you about, and have many times in the, 5-6 months I've been back? I don't know, Justin. I have spoken to you many, many times about be careful. Listen to me, please. Be careful what you're reading on X and elsewhere, because there are well-funded foreign influence psychological operations. It's not a conspiracy theory. PSYOPs are real, being run against you to get you to believe things. Now do you see why I was so passionate about this? What do you think? I was just making it up? You think the president was lying to you last night? Do not bury the lead on what happened last night. Psychological manipulation operations and the deep state, silly state, dark state, I don't care what the hell you want to call it, was very real. Components of it are still there hiding. That was the essence of what was said last night. Don't bury the lead. He proved it to you last night. How do you think we found this stuff? Sitting there watching Teletubbies reruns in our office? There were two things now that I have been extremely passionate and emotional about, almost too emotional. Be careful where you consume your information. Some of the stuff you're being told from people who've mysteriously changed overnight did not change because their convictions changed. Many of them likely changed because there was a financial incentive or an op being run on you. Second, the SAVE Act. Why do you think I'm so passionate about the SAVE Act? After last night, I think now it makes sense. Folks, I got a lot to get to, so this is going to be a ride today. I'm going to put this together for you within bounds because, again, it's not my job to declassify. It's his administration. I didn't win the presidency. President Trump did. When he's ready to tell you more, he'll tell you more. However, now that some of this material is in the public domain, I can provide some color commentary, how it got there and how it fits into the bigger puzzle. And we'll do that for you today. Hey, Ammo Squared is one of our new sponsors. We're always happy to have them on board. You remember the great ammo shortage of 2020? It was a mess. Store shelves were empty. Online inventory disappeared overnight. And if you waited until you needed ammo, it was already too late. It was gone. The lesson was simple. Preparedness starts before the crisis hits. That's why more than 190,000 Americans have turned to Ammo Squared. Since 2015, Ammo Squared has helped gun owners steadily build their ammunition reserves without the hassle of chasing deals, watching inventory, or making large purchases all at once. Here's how it works. You choose your calibers, you set a budget that works for you, and Ammo Squared automatically buys and stores your ammo over time. Your stockpile grows month after month and ships whenever you're ready. No minimum orders, no storage fees, no need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars up front. Whether you're a shooter, hunter, competitor, or simply someone who believes in being prepared, like me, Ammo Squared makes it easy to stay ahead of the next shortage, which is inevitable. So go today. Don't wait. Go to ammosquared.com, and start building your ammo reserves the smart way. Do it today. Don't wait. Join 180,000 members and growing, and thousands of five-star reviewers who are taking responsibility for their own preparedness. It's a great company. Check them out. We're happy to have them on board. Ammosquared.com. Ammosquared.com. Visit the site today. Must be 18 or older and not prohibited from possessing ammo. Must be 21 for handgun ammunition. Fellas, let's go. You ready to take a ride? So it's tragic. It's really tragic that the left-wing and corrupted media was so willing, is still willing to entertain the 2016 election was stolen by the Russians and Donald Trump. Ridiculous absurdities. They still believe this or pretend to believe this. So do innumerable leftist lunatics out there. And yet the president last night, President Trump, gives a primetime address where he lays out intel I'm very familiar with that I promise you is very real about deep state activities. And I don't care what you call it. Again, I can't say it enough. If that term bothers you, I really don't care. Use whatever term you want. The corrupted state, the bureaucracy, the swamp, whatever, I don't care. He laid out to you last night evidence over the past year we've been working our asses off on. And corrupted media types are just there, oh, Trump's lying. Listen to me, I'm really trying to control the expletives. That's bullshit. That is bullshit. Call me whatever you want. Do not call me a freaking liar. I lived it. I saw it. You're calling him a liar. You're calling me a liar too because I lived it. I've been asked, 10,000 times in digital format, what about that tweet you put out that time about how the Republic basically can't survive what I saw here? Is it starting to make sense now? Folks, there was an organized internal government effort between intelligence community actors, law enforcement actors, DNI actors to just destroy President Trump completely. By the way, by whatever means necessary. This is the tweet. This is after reading another document that he may address in the future, but it's not my role to do it. It's his. I didn't win the presidency. Said, during my tenure here as your deputy, I've relayed to you things that are happening that might not be immediately visible, but they are happening. It's not my job to tell you about things that I don't have the power to declassify. I did not win the presidency, but it was my job to warn you. The director and I are committed to stamping out public corruption and weaponization. Law enforcement intel, it's a priority for us. Here's the key line. But what I've learned in the course of our properly predicated and necessary investigations into these aforementioned matters has shocked me down to my core. We can't run a republic like this. I'll never be the same after learning what I've learned. I didn't send that tweet out for any other reason other than I wanted it on the record just how deep the deep state, the swamp, whatever you choose to call it was. I know we're going to conduct these righteous and proper investigations by the book in accordance with the law. We're going to get the answers we all deserve. As with any investigation, I can't predict where it'll land, but I can promise you an honest and dignified effort at the truth. Not my truth or your truth, but the truth. God bless America and all those who defend her. Respectfully, Dan. Folks, the burn bags, the use of FBI communication systems to discuss, shadow governments. keeping information from the president, the Russia hoax, the efforts to protect leaders at the top, even though a lot of people knew they were corrupt. We walked into a hornet's nest. After last night, I'm telling you, I've never been prouder of what the Trump administration in total did over the first year. Folks, I know a lot of you will say and criticize a lot of our decisions early on because you wanted a good guy, bad guy story. And what I was trying to explain to people is that in law enforcement, intel, and especially when trying to dismantle an operation, a deep state operation that had been going on for decades. It wasn't new when we got there. It had been going on for decades. Through the entire Trump first term, people hid themselves like ticks. That good guys and bad guys don't present themselves as good guys and bad guys. Listen to me, I can't say this enough. A lot of the bullshit doomer critics, who most of them aren't even authentic or genuine, they're probably being financed to do all this, to just destroy the MAGA movement's credibility from the inside. However, some people just don't know. When you're trying to get John Gotti, for those of you who don't know who John Gotti is, he's since passed, but mobster, huge case, many of you remember. You don't go to a nunnery. Do you get where I'm going with this? You don't go to a nunnery and say, Sister Mary, do you know mobster John Gotti? Why would I know mobster John? They can't help you. You have to go to people like Sammy the Bull. Not a good guy, but bad guys have information about other bad guys. So when people would ask questions like, why didn't X happen? I couldn't tell you. But I just hope it makes more sense now why some decisions were made quickly and some a little more slowly. The communications you saw that were put out there last night, whitehouse.gov and in the president's speech from those FBI systems, those did not surface the day we got there. There were a lot of people, and a lot of decisions have been made about that, and not good for them, by the way. And there's investigations, by the way, still ongoing. There were a lot of people who wanted to make that stuff go away. And it took a lot of, but that doesn't sound right, try again. Before someone finally came in, knocked on the door and said, I think we found it. That's what happened with the burn bags. That's what happened with a lot of these communications. This deep state stuff is real. It's not a conspiracy theory. The president's not crazy. And I know there are a lot of Republicans out there from the more moderate establishment wing of the party that say, hey, there's an election coming up. We need to talk about, affordability. And I get it. The economy, it's the economy, stupid, is real. I understand that. But folks, I don't think the people saying that really understand the base and the listeners to this. We're 10 minutes in. We got 46,000 people here. Who the hell's drawing that at a campaign rally? The answer is we are. We're not even 15 minutes into the show. This is the base. They are extremely concerned about this. Do not gaff this off. I think I've been very level-headed about it. I've had to tell people a lot of things they didn't want to hear about why things didn't happen quicker, why certain people who were bad guys were here and not there. Let's get into some details so it makes a little bit more sense. I'm telling you, this is why I've been so passionate about be careful where you're getting your information. This information warfare against your mind to try and destroy the United States is very real. I've read it. I've seen it. The president discussed it last night. China funding a lot of these organizations. You thought this was organic, generic? It's all AstroTurf. And second, the SAVE Act. Now do you see why we need voter ID? Do you see how easy it's going to be in the future with AI and the theft of massive data sets to go and not only manipulate voters, but potentially register for them if you find out they're in a nursing home or something like that? Now does it make sense why the president, his administration, the FBI, CIA, is DNI now are acting or so concerned? Here's President Trump last night talking about it, and it was amazing to see some, liberal media lunatics play this down. Like, well, some voter rolls you can access, and we didn't put them out there for China to go and manipulate them for nefarious purposes. Are you guys knuckleheads? If this was any other country on earth, like Russia, you'd lose your mind. President Trump said this last night about voter rolls in China. Extremely concerning, and that may be understatement of the millennia. Check this out.
They show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China has signed a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project. Compounding the travesty, the second set of documents we are releasing reveals that members of the deep state, very, very famous group of people, in many cases, in our intelligence agency work to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling, covering it up from both the president and the American people like nobody thought was possible.
So let me tie together what the president said into a bullet point storyline. The president brings up a few things there: election meddling, the deep state, and efforts to hide information from him, which is kind of deep state 2.1. Folks, there are numerous internal FBI communications which we found and many people tried to hide. We wouldn't let it go, about internal actors in the FBI who very serious things are going on with this case that I'm not at liberty to discuss. It's the president's job to declassify. It's not mine. It's not my job to sit here and try to stir you up for clicks. When he's ready to discuss what's going on with the ongoing investigations, he'll tell people to do it. But some of it, we don't want to jeopardize what's going on. It took a long time to find this stuff. What happened was there were certain field offices of the FBI that had information about China, and they're unquestioned. It's tell me the president's lying, I'm going to laugh in your face. China's unquestioned by any rational actor who was involved. Their unquestioned efforts to manipulate public opinion on everything from elections to elsewhere. It's a real thing. There were certain field offices that had information. Now, I said to you before, there were a lot of people in the FBI, it wasn't a small group, who were very concerned about this stuff. And there's email trails of them saying, hey, this is really serious stuff. The problem was the prior leadership of the FBI had already gone up to Capitol Hill and said, hey, we don't really have any strong evidence about that. And meanwhile, when we did our homework and started digging, we're like, what are you talking about? This guy right here is objecting strongly to that statement at their own expense, by the way. Imagine what it's like contradicting FBI leadership and the prior director about a foreign meddling thing. So when President Trump says there's a deep state, he's tying together various storylines that are all accurate. There was a deep state effort where there's the grand conspiracy ongoing investigation going on right now between leadership of the IC, intelligence community, and the FBI to take down President Trump using any means necessary. The Russia hoax was just a small component of a larger operation to get rid of this guy and to hide from him information. China will meddle in anything, public opinion, elections, to screw us up from the inside. There are other storylines here, but he provided to you hard evidence last night that there was a coordinated internal effort uncovered over the last year. It took a long time to build. It's not going to be all dismantled overnight because there's a process. We're not the Secretary of War. We can't just go in and start bombing people. That's not how this whole process works. The burn bags that were found. There's two possible explanations. One, they just forgot to burn the material. President Trump mentioned it last night. That was the material I had read that led to that tweet. When the president's ready to disclose more, they can. It's not my job to do that. But it's pretty devastating about the Russia hoax. There's two explanations. Someone just forgot to burn it, or someone left it there on purpose for someone to find. I'm not sure which one is true. I lean towards the latter only because when it came to the information about China, potentially interfering in our elections and public opinion, there were people there on the record at great expense to themselves objected in writing about how leadership was handling this. Which leads me to believe there were some people like, hey, man, I don't know if it is out of goodwill or just trying to preserve their own integrity. I don't know. I can't get in their heads. But there were people who left breadcrumbs. You had the burn bags. You had this FBI systems traffic about, we're running a shadow government. I'm not sure, if they thought we couldn't find this or if they thought it was buried. Here's the thing you probably don't know about FBI communication systems, and none of this is classified, but there are various, it's probably pretty common sense, but it's not something you'd follow every day. There are various, it's not just one email system in the FBI. There's many based on the classification of the information. If you're sending someone a weather report because they're going to do it, you don't need to put that on a classified system. The weather's not classified. So you don't want to waste and clog up a classified system. I'm not at liberty to say or anything like that. I'm just telling you there's different levels of classification. I think there were some people in there who really thought that this stuff would never be found. And it was, despite efforts by a lot of people, some to leave breadcrumbs, some to just come out and say it, hey, look here. But others to say, oh, there's nothing there to see. So you have comms on the FBI system, the burn bag, you have the Russia hoax, you have Christopher Wray and the leadership and other prior deep state actors who were clearly trying to hide information from the president while trying to set him up on the Russia hoax. You can deny it all you want. Trump is lying. You're full of shit. You're lying. You're going to look stupid when all this stuff comes out over time. Now, on the China angle, folks, again, now do you see why I'm constantly warning you about information warfare? How not everything you're reading online is real in the sense that it's motivated by people's genuine convictions? There are a lot of puppet master foreign governments out there working through third-party companies and elsewhere, desperate to manipulate you into believing things that aren't true. I saw it. It is the most illuminating experience of my life, seeing from the inside what's actually happening versus what's going on in the Twitter ecosystem. And people saying, you can see it. You can make the connection. They will do this. 5 days later, you see an X tweet from someone who's supposedly one of us about exactly that. And now why I'm so passionate about the SAVE Act. Here's why. I want you to listen to an excellent clip from a really fantastic reporter. Catherine Herridge does amazing work. She was on, I think it was News Nation with Katie Pavlich. Here she is explaining how don't bury the lead. This is not just about election interference, huge component of it. It's about deep state efforts to hide foreign propaganda operations and about China's ability in the information warfare era to use their AI, quantum computing, whatever, to basically compile a dossier, I use that word intentionally, on you, to hit you with information, maybe register in your name to vote. She really did a great job with this. Check this out.
China is one of the biggest collectors of data on the planet. So if you take that 220 million voter rolls and you combine it with something called the SF-86, Those are the security clearance applications that were compromised back in 2015, 22 million files. And then you combine it with all of the health information that's been hacked. You can really build this kind of digital composite of an individual. And you can use that for, voter registration fraud. You can use that for identity theft. And significantly, you can also use it to recruit American citizens to your efforts. So it's not just about the collection of the data around the vote. Exactly. Right.
Folks, Catherine Herridge is an actual journalist. She is not biased. She's shown no evidence of bias. I don't even know her party. And we were colleagues at Fox. I mean, we didn't hang out or anything. But I don't think anybody knew what political party she was. And that's kind of like a badge of honor if you're a real journalist, correct? She has no political dog in the fight. She's telling you what I've been telling you. Are we both lying? There is an information warfare effort going on, a global propaganda effort. Before the speech, I used this term yesterday. I didn't even coordinate it. I wasn't like something I called, what do I say? It's been on my mind. There is a global propaganda effort using real information, OPM records, background check stuff. We don't even know the extent of how deep China has infiltrated our information ecosystem. If there is a safe of information on every American, Justin, his healthcare records, college records, all of his ex-posts and DMs, folks, I can't tell you with a straight face, I know how much of that China and other actors have. But I can tell you, if they do have what I think they may have, they have a profile on Justin better than his mom and dad does. And I'm not kidding. You're being hit with stuff every single day that you think is genuine, that turns you in a direction you're probably not comfortable with. You feel like there's a magnetic pull, but you know there's something wrong. There is. There is. You notice it in other cases as well, where we have this storyline like subject X is a left-wing violent guy and he did this. And all of a sudden another storyline emerges that no, it's the Trump administration. The Trump administration's hiding information. You don't think that's weird? You don't think that's strange that the Trump administration has figured out left-wing violent actor did this or is a suspect in this, and immediately a narrative emerges on a parallel track. No, it's not the left-wing violent guy. It's someone else. It's Snoopy or Garfield. And you're like, you don't think that's weird? Just go look at any big news story cracked open on the law enforcement or intel side during the first year of the Trump administration. And notice how immediately a parallel narrative distracting you from the left and the real actors developed right away. There's big investigations, prosecutions, and convictions on Antifa, BLM, the SPLC, others. And all of a sudden, there's a narrative developing. Hey, man, nothing's happening. We got to get rid of all these guys. And people fell for it. You don't think that's strange? You think the president's making it up last night? This is why the left is freaking out too, folks. I got to take a quick break, but I want to get to this immediately after a short break for you here. Folks, the left-wing media and all of these goofballs out there on the left-wing X and Blue Sky and elsewhere, they hated the speech last night. Here's the kicker, though. Many of them hated the speech before they even heard it. No, I'm not kidding. I'll play for you a clip of what I'm talking about. And folks, I want to be clear about this. I use the word hated, but I'm being sarcastic. The left didn't hate the speech. They didn't. Of course they didn't. No, they didn't. They were scared of the speech. There's a difference. They were scared of the speech because all of those documents that the president put out there on the website are real. It took us a couple months to find them and dig through them. We needed to go through a lot of Sammy the Bulls to get to John Gotti. And then we took care of the Sammy the Bulls too. It took a long time to find them, but they're real. You deny them at the expense of your own credibility, not ours. All right, quick break, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. They were terrified of this speech. And I thank you, President Trump. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for putting that out there and letting the American people see, finally, what a lot of us saw. Hey, let me tell you something. When you sign your insurance policy, for some brokers, that's the finish line. A handshake, commission, they're done. Then you may not hear from them again until it's time for renewal. Your business runs all year, and so do the gaps and the risks. That's why I'm introducing you to SuperSure. If your company has more than 25 employees, whether you're the owner, CFO, or HR manager, it can be too complex to just buy a policy online. SuperSure is the super agency built for you, licensed in every state for your business insurance and employee benefits needs. At supersure.com, you can access tools like the fine print facts, which translates your current policy into plain English so you can see what's covered and what's not. Plus a business value calculator so you can estimate what your business is worth so you know what needs protecting. Pretty straightforward. Go to supersure.com/Bongino. It's one super agency, one powerful platform, all your policies in one place. That's supersure.com/Bongino, supersure.com/Bongino. Consult with a licensed insurance producer to discuss coverage options for your specific business needs. Paid for by SuperSure Insurance Agency, LLC, a licensed insurance agency. Give them a shot. Supersure.com/Bongino. Check them out. Thanks, SuperSure. Here's what I mean. Don't get confused. Maybe I'm playing a little bit of word games. I don't want. The left hated the speech, clearly, but they hated it because they were scared of it. Because everything the president said last night about the don't bury the lead, this deep state operation to dismantle the Trump government, not the government. They didn't want to dismantle the guy. They love big government. They wanted to dismantle the Trump government. Is very real. Here's Chuck Schumer yesterday critiquing the speech before it even happened. Check this out.
Mr. President, Donald Trump's election speech tonight is not about the election Trump lost 6 years ago. It is a threat against the election he is afraid to lose this November. Trump may control the microphone tonight, but he will not control the verdict in November. The voters will have the last word, and Senate Democrats will rebut Trump's lies every day.
They're amazing, guy. How do you know they're lies? You didn't even hear what he said. Are you guys lawyers? No. Justin's like, what do you mean? I'm like 18. Imagine, I want to cross-examine the witness. We haven't called him yet. I want to cross-examine his testimony. It hasn't happened. How do you know what he said? What part? Ask Chuck Schumer. You know those folks that go up to Capitol Hill? That guy, what's his name, Ben and others, they go up to Capitol Hill and they just do like man on the streets. They're always cool about it. Like, just ask Chuck Schumer, what specifically did he say last night that was a lie? The burn bags? We found them. I was there. Call me a liar and I'll laugh in your freaking face. We were there. We found it. There were multiple witnesses to this. Yes, the room was, I don't want to say hidden. I mean, if the room was real, hidden like some magician, like, oh, voila, here's the room. But nobody said anything about this room. Nobody. It wasn't a place where you would typically put that type of material in a burn bag. There were breadcrumbs left. The thing about the intelligence report about China, that's a real intelligence report. You can look it up. The internal FBI comms, I don't think anybody thought would go public. That we found about the shadow government. That's real. You can look it up. Where's the lie? The fact that China was engaged in intel ops to politically manipulate the country. What part of that's a lie? You can look it up, just like you can look up anything. But this again is another example of stupid shit liberals think. They believe because they hear it from Chuck Schumer. That's a lie. It didn't happen. You can go look it up. I can't declassify it. Thank you, Mr. President, for doing it. Because it is the most frustrating experience of your life to live this every single day. Someone knocking on the door every 10 minutes. Found something else. And then people out there going, well, I don't see anything happen. And folks, it's not even close to done. Anyone telling you that is lying, and the leftist freakout's going to continue. You've already seen in the public domain what's happening in Georgia and elsewhere. Believe the doomers and grifters and influence ops at your own expense. You're being manipulated to enrage you against the administration you voted for. Why do you think he did the speech last night? To hide the stuff? And to the left-wing media clowns and goons, Trump is lying. First, it's imperative that you explain to us exactly what the president is lying about. You can't just throw that out there. I noticed, what was it, Playbook or Axios or one of those email lists this morning. They were like, the president reiterated false claim. What false claims? Like, tell us what, because we can easily rebut what you're saying. Meanwhile, there's real false claims out there. That was the genesis of that tweet I put out from my FBI account, how we can't run a freaking republic like this. The real false claims were by some of the same deep state actors hiding the China op from President Trump, who were more than happy to leak to the media about a fake Russian hoax operation and a pee-pee tape Donald Trump was in that didn't even exist. You don't want to talk about election manipulation and public opinion manipulation by foreign actors when Trump says it, but when it's a conspiracy theory generated by people who were actually part of the deep state, who've now been called out last night, and who are not going to get away with this in the sense they're just going to walk off, you didn't care at all. Who would I put this out there? Is this Taibbi, this video? I got to give proper attribution. I saw this on X this morning. Here's kind of a quick jump cut video of the left-wing media more than happy to entertain bullshit conspiracy theories about the 2016 stolen election by the Russians when it suited their political needs. Now he produces evidence of actual foreign interference and you want to ignore it. It's unbelievable. Check this out.
He's an illegitimate president. He's an illegitimate president. You know, pretending to be president.
Why do you think the president is going to such great lengths to essentially prove that he beat you?
Because he didn't.
1/3 of Clinton supporters say Trump election is not legitimate.
I think he's an illegitimate president that didn't really win.
You are absolutely right.
You can run the best campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
The 2016 election was stolen. Got a nicer way to say that?
Say Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked our election.
Russia hacked our elections.
A little louder, please.
Russia hacked our election. That was a 9/11 scale event.
This was a kind of cyber 9/11. American institutions.
9/11.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm looking for a comment here because it'll show you exactly. It's in the chat. And I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. How you'll, this is like, by the way, I think that's TK who did that. I'm sorry. I'm trying to properly. What was the Twitter account who put it out there? The Wake Inc. So you can check that out. Someone in the chat, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but said something like, holy goy. Nobody cares about this. It's an anti-Israel thing. What do you even, you get what's going on here? You think that comment's genuine? This has nothing to do with Israel at all. Right. That it's not important. But you can't talk about it, though. You can't. There's all they talk about, but you can't talk about that. This is what I'm talking about. Folks, I have never, ever in my life, a podcast to stand here, right? It's an island shaped like a microphone. This is why I've been telling you, I hope it makes sense. The SAVE Act, you don't get the SAVE Act going forward, and you're not careful about information warfare and where you're getting your information going forward. Folks, we're done. We're finished. There is no republic. I'm telling you with the purest of intentions. I've never been prouder of the body of work we put together. You would have never found this stuff if we just accepted the first answer and didn't ask why. Go again. Do it again. Run it again. Run it again. Oh, look what we found. And this is just, I hate cliches, but a huge iceberg, it's just the top. You can't run a republic like this, where every time we finally use a set of facts to get to an answer about the deep state, a murder, a plot, a terror plot, a parallel bullshit AstroTurf narrative develops that Mickey Mouse did it, and everybody falls for it and goes, I can't believe the administration's covering this up. Covering it up. There are people out there, you documented, telling you the president's covering up his own assassination attempt, that it's not even real.
It's a data point.
And people believe it. It's a data point. People believe that. Imagine being shot in the head and then going, hey, we got to cover that up. I really don't want answers on it. Does that make sense? Folks, please go get a slice of pizza. Take a deep breath. Does that even make sense? You've got an active criminal case where people are swearing under oath to a set of facts. And then you got another one go like, nah, man. Garfield did it. Well, yeah, that makes sense to me. We will never have a country if we can't agree on using compass true north and logic and reason to get to an answer. The country's finished. That's what Yuri Bezmenov, the KGB defector, warned us about. The pollution of the information environment that creates such a grave situation that nobody believes anything anymore. People believe increasingly crazy things, like the president's covering up his own assassination attempt. Do you understand how insane that is? Susie Wiles, there's no one more loyal to the president than his chief of staff. Nobody. Susie puts out some tweet the other day about Butler. People are attacking her. You guys are covered up. Yeah, Susie, but that makes a lot of sense. Second, I haven't hit on this, but this is critically important to Republican lawmakers out there. Part two of this. First, information warfare. Second, I have been hammering the SAVE Act. Now do you understand why? Maybe not every Republican lawmaker, we've briefed some of them, maybe not every Republican lawmaker, it depends on committees and things like that, has had access to this full data set. The president's given you a lot now. Now does it make sense based on what Catherine Herridge and the president said? In this artificial intelligence, quantum computing era, where the power of compute is beyond what you can comprehend. It's the difference between a calculator built in the 60s and that compute power and like Big Blue that plays chess. You're talking about magnitudes of compute power right now, not in the future, growing by the day that you don't understand. China, just look at Axios' email list today. Their morning rundown. There's a whole big piece out there about how China has now caught up to us on AI. It's right there. They're not even like a Trump-supported outfit or MAGA outfit. They're left-wing. Axios has it out there today. China is actually on par with us right now with AI. They're going to have your voter reg information, your online posts. We don't know if they've hacked your geolocation, metadata, whatever you... Yeah, thank you, guys. This wasn't even part of the show. Axios, China just erased America's AI lead. That's the actual title. You don't think they're going to be able to manipulate elections going forward? I'm not telling you it's going to switch every result, but if you can manipulate 10 or 20 people in a couple city council races where, there's like a Chinese owner buying a farm on some city land and he's suspect, this is what they're going to do. Think about what I just told you. This is why I talk about this all. It's not because I pulled it out of my ass. You don't have the SAVE Act, and you can't go in there and securely know that Dan Bongino produced an ID created by Dan Bongino at the DMV that I was required to verify my identity, address, and everything. You don't know it's me. How do you know in the future, using all of this information, and some of this is an ongoing investigation, I'm being very careful here, but how do you know in the future they're not going to create a voter profile to not only steal your information, say they know you're infirm or you're away and they think you're not going to vote. How do you know they're not going to try to vote for you with some proxy voter? How do you know they're not going to build a voter manipulation file targeted perfectly to you? Oh my gosh, that would take a lot of work. Not with AI and not with quantum, it won't. There will be a perfectly tailored manipulation campaign to see where your weak points are in your thought process. And we all have them, folks. None of us are, sitting there and make every decision perfect all the time. We all have weak points people can play with. Our kids, a gun issue, a trans issue, whatever it is. What if they manipulate that to you to manipulate elections even without stealing your voter reg? Folks, this is serious shit. This is really going on right now. The president is warning you. Shame on all these people who attacked him today. What's the lie? He's warning you you're being hit with a massive global propaganda machine, and that they can and will, going forward, using today's technology, not tomorrow, compile citizen files on every single American, and they will have an ability to manipulate you like you've never seen before in your life. You won't even know what's happening. It'll be cleverly disguised. Please, today, though, the folks out there who are handling this using real leadership, don't get distracted by side stories. It's what murdered us in 2020. There was real malfeasance that went on there. There was no way a mass mail-in ballot campaign was conducted with zero fraud. It was a perfect election. That's all bullshit. But there were distractions that developed that could never be proven. And it kept people, what it did is it gave the left-wing media the ability to pull the story in a direction and off the fact that this thing was real. I mean, what was that? Politico wrote that hit piece of me, like, oh, Dan Bongino, like election. I never denied there was an election. I had legitimate questions like anyone else. You conduct a mass mail-in ballot vote for the first time in American history when liberal reporters like Adam Sistak at the New York Times have reported in the past about rejection rates on mail-in ballots being double. I'm just using your own reporting. You don't think that's grounds to ask questions like, hey, we're doing this because of COVID? Like, are we doing this right? But you notice how side narratives developed right away? Like, space aliens. And all of a sudden, everybody got distracted and the whole argument got lost. There it is right there. New York Times, in case you think I'm making this up. This is them reporting on rejection rates for mail-in ballots being double. Here, put it in the Google machine yourself. Error and fraud at issue as absentee voting rises. It's their piece. The New York Times, not the New York Post. And I was accused by Politico of being an election denier. I didn't deny an election. I had questions about it, like many of you did. But I want to just applaud everyone going forward to just stick with Compass True North. The president and his team are getting you the answers. And I put in that tweet, you're entitled and we all deserve. I know it because I lived it. But this is really important, okay? Forget the good guys, bad guys story. If you're looking for white knights, knights in shining armor, Guardians of the Galaxy, the Avengers, you're not going to find them in this story. You're not. You're going to find bad guys, worse guys. I'll just make up some words. Worsiest guys. Guys who wanted to save their careers. Some guys who want to do the right thing, but you don't know why, and I don't really care as long as you do it. Some people who may have been trying to protect themselves. Some people who may have been trying to protect the entity, the FBI. But you're not going to find some white knight in this whole thing. I think we as, good, sincere, and giving human beings, we always want to find like a hero in the story, and that's a mistake. You're not going to find any heroes in this story. And sometimes the people who are really trying to get you the truth we all deserve, as I put in that tweet, had to deal with some genuinely bad people to get there. Don't ever forget the analogy I gave you. Sometimes to get John Gotti, you've got to deal with Sammy the Bull. And a lot of people on the outside who are paid, I'm convinced, were paid agitators, were trying to turn you against the Trump administration by going, hey, oh my gosh, look at that, without any background information as to why that specific thing was happening. This is a lot of show, man. Right? Justin's right. Sorry, Justin's like, I'm glad we did a full rundown that took a half an hour. There were about 20 elements? Through 4 of them. But we haven't even interviewed Will Witt yet. You know Will Witt from Turning Point? Will Witt's amazing. He's coming up. And we're going to talk about the actual tips from people who go out there and debate on how to talk to like your liberal neighbor friends who are probably crazy. But I just want to leave it here, okay? Don't bury the lead. The lead of this story is the deep state, the dark state, whatever the F you want to call it, I don't care, is very real. Anyone telling you otherwise is bullshit. Trump has the evidence, President Trump, on the whitehouse.gov site. You can go look at it yourself. If you don't find that traffic, that FBI comms traffic, the burying of internal intelligence reports to protect former FBI leadership, if you don't find that compelling evidence that there were state actors that worked for the state doing everything they can to bury themselves in a system that would take down President Trump, you're just a moron. You're ignoring what's slapping you in the face. Don't bury the lead. This deep state narrative is the story, not a story. And don't get lost in looking for good guys. Me included. I mean that. I'm not trying to. These were a lot of hard decisions we have to make, and you have every right to question them. I can tell you for a fact, I regret none of them. None. Not a single one. I didn't look back on any single one. I'm telling you, I don't. I'm not telling you every decision. I'm just telling you based on the data and the information I had, we had to make level 10 decisions where there was no good decision. There was only a less bad one. You want to die by razor blade and alcohol or a chainsaw to the head? Gee, I don't know. They both suck. That was pretty much every day. All right, I wanted to at least get to this too because folks, the threat from China, as you saw last night, is very real, and it ties into this next story I'll get to before we go to Will Witt. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth is not messing around. He is another guy who has to make level 10 decisions every day. Do we kill this person and risk potential external factors? Do we let that person go who could potentially kill other people, creating other externalities? Do we put this out there knowing that there could be, recruitment benefits versus some people leaving because they don't like it? Pete is making hard decisions every single day. One person I know in the government who absolutely understands the China threat, absolutely, is Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. So this may be an unpopular opinion, but unpopular opinions don't win wars. This came out yesterday. They want to do testosterone testing. And a bunch of people laughed. That's so funny. That's so funny. I'm going to give you a little background on this, okay? Military to require testosterone screening, but the healthy men actually need it. My good friend Buck Sexton got experience in the intel space himself. Buck Sexton had some comments here, and he is 100% spot on. He says most people aren't ready for the next part of the conversation yet. Aren't ready for a part of the conversation yet, sorry. But our combat units, special ops guys, should be able to optimize their body chemistry however they see fit under military doctor supervision to get the mission done. Why am I bringing this up here? Seems totally unrelated. It's not. I just told you about the massive China threat and this global propaganda operation to create fake narratives, to distract you, to pollute the information environment, influence elections, influence public opinion. Folks, China is way, way, way ahead of us on this. You think the whole, what a super soldier Captain America thing, it's a movie, a great comic book. I read it growing up. There's no super soldier serum, clearly. But there are entities out there looking for it. You think Pete just made this up? The China military threat is real. They don't care what they inject into their soldiers. Testosterone, BPC, sermorelin, growth hormone. They don't give a shit. Do you want to be fighting? And I hate the word, but it's appropriate here. I'm not talking about figuratively. Do you want to literally be fighting someone on a battlefield or even in a boxing ring who's enhanced with quality, good, controlled peptides, growth hormones, testosterone, high-tech supplements? Do you want to fight them while you're just going in there just on a cup of coffee? Good luck. I know this is not a popular opinion, but I promise you, Pete didn't pull this out of his ass either. You want to win wars or you want to F around? Because I'm telling you, the other side is not fooling around. I know it's kind of an odd tie-in, but it's not. He's reading intel that other people aren't reading. Look at this. You guys got a teaser now? Coming up. That's right. It's a good picture of Will, too. So look at he's run for office in that feed. This guy's great. Coming up a few minutes. I'm going to get to one more thing. Folks, I am elated that, and I mean elated in every sense of the word, that President Trump has decided it's time. And some of you may be asking, and I do not speak for the president. Let me be clear. He did not call me, and he doesn't need Dan's permission for anything. He didn't need my permission to eat for his lunch, no less than nothing. The president got elected. I did not. I think the president was waiting because a lot of this stuff, as I told you earlier, took time to get. People, when we went in there, didn't just show it to us. A lot of people tried to make it go away. The president was waiting for the cement to dry a little bit before giving you this. He wasn't hiding it from you. He had to wait because we want to make sure we had the ducks in a row, so to say. I'm elated that he decided last night to use his massive platform and a primetime address to get the information out that we've been dealing with for the last year. It was a brilliant tactical decision, and I don't care what establishmentarians on it say. I don't. The base, this show, the 60,000 and a half people here right now are deeply concerned about this issue. Foreign manipulation of elections. And can I just throw one more thing out on the election front? Because I know some people ask this. I think I'm okay to say this. I'm pretty sure. We established for the first time a group that was specifically dedicated to this topic. And the people we brought in, we put in the big meeting that we conducted, Cash and I, every Tuesday and Thursday with all of the department heads. That was the first time they had ever been invited in there. They had never been invited in there before. We did a lot of things on the intel side, and there's still ongoing investigations about this exact case. Nothing happens fast in the justice system. I wish it did. But I'm elated President Trump is using his microphone to expose this. He's also using his social media platforms. Here he was yesterday on True Social putting out a video. This is why I told you, this is the warrior we need at this time when it comes to things like socialism and foreign interference, because he's not sitting there writing white papers. Here's the Trump manifesto on communism. I love white papers. They're really good. They're very informative. I love reading our founding documents, the Federalist Papers. It's great. You should read them too. But sometimes you just need a guy with a megaphone like President Trump to go, you know what? Communism really sucks. Here's why. Hey, look at the Declaration of Independence. If that sounds familiar, that's because you probably saw this video already. Check this out.
I stand by the Declaration of Independence, which is a great honor. I keep hearing so much about TikTok and all of the influence they have and that how it's unfair and how it's this and that. But here's the only problem. I'm number one on TikTok. Can you believe it? I'm number one. Look at those numbers. Billions and billions of people are looking at Trump. And I keep hearing about the influence other people have. I don't know. How come I'm number one if they have so much influence? Here's your number. So I think we have influence too. And I'm saying stop communism.
Folks, sometimes you just need the bouncer at the door to say, hey, our party stands for freedom and liberty. You're not coming in with your sign that says we love communism, hammer and sickle. You don't need a white paper at the door sometimes. They're great. Love them. You don't always need it. You need a messenger to just say, this stuff sucks. This is what we fought for. The course of human events. This is what we fought for. Later on, we the people. That's what we fought for. You don't always need a manifesto. So we're running our contest celebrating 250 years of independence. Gosh, we love the United States. 250 years of freedom, liberty, and kicking ass. If you like the shirt, up to you. We put them out there, store.bongino.com. You can pick them up. Someone asked me about it the other day. However, we want to give back to you. Every week we're picking a winner. in our 1776 club. You just got to join the live every day at 10 a.m. Eastern time. We will pick a comment of the day. They're put into a weekly drawing, and then we'll give weekly $1,776 and a prize to someone watching the show. It's free. Win the comment of the day. You're in the weekly drawing. One of you wins a cash prize every week. See official rules at Bongino.com/1776. And the comment of the day today is... we love Star Wars fans. Star Wars fan 1977. Who keep this up for a second before I get to read it. I love this guy. Is it a man? Well, I don't know. Star Wars fans, a lot of them. Star Wars fan 1977. These aren't the illegitimate votes you're looking for. If you don't get that, just call Guy. He's not here today. I'll give you a cell phone. I get 1,000 calls. Very good, Star Wars fan. I'm glad you're here. I know sometimes you got to pop in and out. See, I read the chat. I wish someone a happy birthday today. Scratch it. That's me. You think I think Jasmine, you posted one time, right? And she was like, right away, she's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what happened. I'm like, what? I thought there was going to be some tragedy. She's like, I posted under your account by accident. I'm like, it's no big deal. That happens. What's the problem? But that, in the morning, that's me, so you can chat with me. I usually jump in kind of early. All right. Birch Gold. Wouldn't be celebrating America 250 if it wasn't for a strong foundation. Set by the framers, Hamilton built America's financial foundation on the principle of sound, stable money. You're darn right, a principle later embodied by the gold standard. What's the foundation of your savings? Is it gold or something that can be shaken, disrupted, or devalued? Birch Gold Group, BIRCH, I buy gold from them, have often, has been helping Americans solidify their savings with gold for the past 15 years. They'll help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. Learn how gold fits into your portfolio by texting my name, Dan, to the number 989898. You'll receive a free, no-obligation info kit with an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews. Let Birch Gold help build your foundation with gold. Text my name, do it today, Dan, D-A-N, to the number 989898. Again, text Dan to 989898. Message and data rates may apply. Welcoming to the show, you may have seen him the other day. We've played his clips quite often through the years. He's just a fantastic debater, a good friend to the movement, Will Witt. He's at the Will Witt on X. Will, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, man. This is fantastic.
It's great to have you. You know, I talk all the time about the power of debate. You're a multiple-time best-selling author. You're at Turning Point right now, doing your best out there to kind of rescue the country from the grips of propaganda. You know, and you and I were kind of chatting a little bit before the interview about just how Turning Point, guys like yourself, you know, Charlie, God rest his beloved soul, we're left to clean up the mess from a lot of propaganda. That's why I'm not angry at the young voters out. I'm not angry. They've been indoctrinated for 20 years to believe stuff. I have this clip I played the other day. Here's a short clip of it, but it's you doing your best to try to pull people from the grips of the propaganda efforts on how the United States is, you know, air quotes, racist. I want the audience to see this again. You did a great job here. This is masterful stuff. Check this out.
We have a president right now.
No, the president is not white culture. What is white culture? And how does white culture perpetuate racism?
The president was voted in by, you know,
and the country also voted in Obama, a black man, for 2 terms.
Sorry, what?
We've had a black president for 2 terms. How can you say that there's a systemic racism in this country when we had a black president for 8 years?
Sorry, what? Okay. Sorry, it's hard to focus. Okay. So we had a black president for 2 terms. That's correct, of course. Yeah. That isn't not enough evidence to suggest that our country has a race problem.
But it is enough evidence to suggest that because Donald Trump was elected that we are racist. So if it doesn't fit your narrative the other way, then you just switch it the opposite. You can't have one and not the other.
Will, that was just amazing. Now, I debate all the time with people. People come up to me, they want to talk about politics and things. Even friends of mine who are not necessarily Democrats, but they have issues about certain issues. It could be anything from Bitcoin to a couple of debating pointers that I think I learned from you in this clip as well as always make them define the terms. So you clearly lay out the tenets of the argument here that if you are going to make the argument to me that the country is racist because it elected Donald Trump, a white man, then I'm going to use that exact same argument on your terms against you than what happened with the 8 years under Obama. Any good pointers for the audience when they're engaging like this? Like, don't get emotional and other things like that?
Yeah, I mean, the laying out the terms is obviously imperative for what you're doing because most people will say things like the majority of people that day. I was at Cal Poly Pomona and I argued with, or not argued, but debated with, I don't know, 10, 15 people about racism and white supremacy in this country, and maybe 90% of them said systematic racism. The term that they're even looking for is systemic racism, is what we're really talking about, right? But they can't even get the terms right when you're trying to have this conversation. So it shows just how propagandized all of this has become because they don't even know the words of what they're saying. Now, you watch that clip, and I watch it, and I'm like, wow, I seem like a little too emotional in that. Like maybe I'm getting a little too into it. And then people are like, wow, Will, you're so calm. And so for me, looking at that, that's like the most emotional I ever get in one of these debates. Usually I'm even more calm than that. The person with the lower blood pressure is always going to win. One thing that people are trying to do in debates most of the time is that it's not actually a debate. Most people have some sort of, I don't want to necessarily say insecurity, but they want to prove that they're right more than they want to show that the ideas are right. And so that's a fault. What we need to be doing is separating ourselves from the ideas and saying, okay, why am I talking to this person? Am I talking to this person to make myself feel good that I can dunk on someone or be the person who's right? Or am I talking to this person because the ideas I believe in are true, they're good, and they're going to help this country succeed, and I want everyone to adopt this way of thinking. And so that's really a big thing, is taking your ego out of it. And that's taken, me a while to do. That's why a lot of people get angry in the debates, and keeping that lower blood pressure is huge. And then I'd say probably the biggest thing when talking to people is asking questions. In that clip, I basically every single thing that I did was ask a question to that girl, and I'm using, my argument to ask a question, but I'm making her have to define everything, have to say what she believes over and over again instead of just telling her what I believe. And you'll find that that is so much of a better way of talking to people, having conducive conversations than just continually going forth on, this fact and this stat, and here's what I think, and here's what I know. You're actually engaging with them by making them have another answer to come up with after.
We're talking to Will Witt. He's at the Will Witt on X. Will, those are really incredible reminders and bullet points for our audience to take out into the world when they're involved in these debates. This is a very activist audience. And a couple of things I would add to that, I'd love to get your thoughts on. That was genius with, systematic discrimination. What I always ask him, one, what are you even talking about? You're talking about systemic discrimination? Okay, fine. What system? Because the system you're complaining about the most in inner cities with all of these problems with crime are run by Democrats. So define the system, what you even mean. When you get them to define the terms, it's cringy. And you said something else. A really, really smart political operative said to me one time. You said ask questions with the lower blood pressure, which is genius. I'm totally going to steal that, but I'll footnote it that Will Witt gave it to us.
All yours.
Lower blood pressure. Remember that lower blood pressure always wins. I need to take that lesson. But a guy said to me one time, he's a really smart guy. I was during one of my political campaigns. He said, Dan, it's a human impulse when you have priors, when you come in with a prior conviction, socialism is great, the United States is racist, whatever, to avoid an assertion otherwise. It's just like a blockade that goes up against it. But it's almost impossible to avoid a question. Your brain is just, it's programmed to respond to a question. So when they say things like that, that's genius to come back and say, well, why do you believe that if that seems to work pretty well for you?
Oh, for sure. And most of the, not, I'm not going to say most of the people, but a lot of people who come up are not always in good faith, right? They're coming and they want to get a rise out of you. Maybe they want to troll you. Maybe they are never going to have their mind change. But, we talked about this before in the sense of you got all the people who are going to be watching the video after. You got all the people at that campus who are watching it happen and actually take place. Those are the people whose mind you're trying to change. And what kind of leader do you want to be? Do you want to be someone who's like just catering to Republicans who have always heard these things and are going to already agree with you and because you dunked on this person? No, like you want to be the person who's a stand-up leader who can show we can actually have these conversations and ask questions and get good things out of people to show that, this country isn't so horrible as we might have thought, or at least as divided in that way by most people. So you have to be able to look at these types of arguments or debates and say, okay, is this person arguing in good faith? And we can have a conducive conversation, actually gets something done, or am I doing this for the people who are watching and the people who are online seeing it afterwards? And once you can determine that, obviously a lot of the people who are watching the show might not be doing, tabling on campuses or whatever kind of debates getting filmed, but still, you're around other people and that kind of stuff. You're going to find that once you can distinguish that, you're going to have a much easier time.
That's really, really helpful to the audience, because some of the feedback I get on this show a lot, when I had my Fox show Unfiltered, we had a segment that was strictly a debate between me and whatever leftist we brought on the show. And gosh, we would get so much feedback. And it was totally binary, black or white. There was nothing milquetoast in the middle. People either hated the segment completely. Why the hell did you give this person airtime? Like you said, they weren't there to debate. They were there to put out their priors. The country's racist. Gun control's great. They don't care what you say. And then other people, there was nothing in the middle, would say that was the greatest thing I ever saw. I was not a big believer in the Second Amendment, but now I saw the segment on gun control. I realized they don't know what they're talking about. But you just said the same thing. You said you're there debating with this person who's probably just there to put out some talking points. But this is going to go on the internet. And that third party, which is the entire internet out there, is going to see it. And when you have the lower blood pressure and the facts are on your side, which they are, as you calmly displayed them in that argument with that young lady there, that third party's like, hey, these guys aren't so crazy. They don't look like the fascists that have been described to me.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, I remember in 2015, this is when I was getting into the political world. Donald Trump was, first starting to run for president the first time. And there were these people who were starting to pop up. Charlie had just kind of really started. Ben Shapiro was getting some name. Gavin McInnes. Milo was even doing some stuff back. All these types of guys who were doing things. And they all were doing debates. And you go back and watch those clips from 2015 of these guys, and you will see that they are all calm. They are all asking questions, and they all have these amazing facts. And they go into the belly of the beast. I mean, they're on BBC. They're at these like conferences that are put on by leftists, and they're doing that kind of stuff because it matters. Debate, open inquiry, free speech, civil discourse. I mean, these are the pinnacles of society, and if we lose that, we're going to lose this country. It is truly the most imperative thing that we do is keeping these debates open. And that happens by people actually coming and doing it in the right way, and obviously, again, you're going to have those people on the left who are horrible to you and are not doing it in good faith. But as long as you keep that civility when you're having these debates, I mean, we can change this country for sure.
Yeah, I mean, William F. Buckley decades ago. I mean, Dinesh D'Souza back in the 90s going on college campuses and debating even little things like the Southern strategy and, racist South, and him saying, how can the South got more Republican and less racism de facto and de jure. Like, what are you talking about? So that you're correct. Like, if you're not talking, you're losing. And it's even worse for us because the facts are on our side. Almost nothing the left tells you is true. That brings me to my second or third point here. And I think you feel the same way. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm not angry at this younger generation. I feel like that's really misplaced. And most Republicans aren't. I don't want to stigmatize anyone, but I do see this sometimes online. I'm chronically online doing show prep, and you'll see people like, these dumb kids. And it reminds me of like get off my lawn syndrome. It's really not their fault. They've been indoctrinated in many cases for close to 2 decades about all of these things. Guns are evil. The United States is racist. It's stolen land we live on. The Native Americans were living in peace and eating s'mores around a campfire. They ignore those components of his cultural appropriation. You've got that famous video with the costume, fake outrage. They've been indoctrinated into this stuff. We can't be mad. That's the higher blood pressure approach you're talking about. That's not going to work. We have to go out there and say to ourselves, we're dealing with people who have put together a puzzle that's all wrong. We have to dismantle that puzzle and put it together correctly.
Yeah, I think the way that I look at it, because, I go to these college campuses, I've talked to, I don't know how many thousands of students, whether it's in my speeches, man on the street, debates. And what you find is not necessarily, from some, you get these crazy far leftists, but really what the biggest crisis in this country today is lack of meaning and purpose. And that is especially apparent with the younger generation, people my age and younger. And so when you don't have that meaning and purpose, you have these bad actors who come in and then instill this meaning and purpose onto people. right? So instead of looking to some, divinity, higher power, or even just, for something that really makes you want to wake up every day that you love, that's for the betterment of society, these people come in and say, well, Mother Earth is dying and we need to defeat the evil corporations, or black people are getting oppressed by white people. You have to come and save them. Gay and trans people are getting killed by evil, horrible people. You have to save them, right? And so it's this very almost narcissistic, selfish ideology that paints this leftism as a religion. And so in a world of without meaning and purpose or any sort of, function of something that these young people actually want to do, the leftists come in and hijack them. And so that's why it's like it's very difficult to break people away from that. And we've always had that kind of in the Republican conservative world of, facts over feelings and that kind of stuff. And obviously that's true, but you're debating on a different plane, right? You're debating on a plane that isn't about facts because it's about their meaning and their purpose of where they derive what their life is all about. And so I think that people, when they're doing these debates and talking to people, you have to understand that. You have to understand, why does this person believe what they believe? Because obviously it's so horribly wrong. I mean, communism killed 100 million people in the last century, right? The most evil, insidious ideology in human history. And yet you have people who believe it. Why do they believe it? That can't just be because it's so convincing of an argument. And you can imagine that none of these people have actually read Rousseau, Hegel, or Marx. They just parrot the ideas. It really comes down to that meaning and purpose that they're missing, and that's why they get taken over by it.
And I think we're talking to Will Witt. He is at the Will Witt on X. Give him a follow. Definitely worth your time. Some fantastic videos. Don't stop after today. Check his stuff out. You'll learn a lot about debating. I certainly have. Yeah, it's true. And I really appreciate the ability to do the lower blood pressure approach because, as I said before, Will, there are very few arguments I can think of off the top of my head where the conservative movement, whatever that big tent is, Republicans, libertarians, conservatives, MAGA folks, the entire movement, there's certain things we agree on, economic freedom and liberty. The facts are on our side. I'll never forget being on my Fox show and debating this woman, I forget who she was, doesn't matter, but Democrat operative. And I knew in advance, this is how easy it is to debate if you're a conservative. I'm not kidding. Like, I never feared a live show because I knew what they were going to say. I knew she was going to say, I said, where's your evidence of where gun control has been effective? And of course, the standard leftist answer is, well, Australia. So I had already ready to go because I knew what she was going to say. An article from Australia saying there are more guns now in Australia than there were before their gun control, gun confiscation. Yep. So I said to her, did you ever read this? And she looked stunned. It's like the first time she'd ever heard that. If your argument is that less guns equals less gun violence, then how come Australia's had less gun violence but more guns? You just made the exact opposite argument. And I think it's important. You see, I'm even getting my blood pressure up now because I can't take the stupid. I know. I got to tranquilo, man, calm down. But when you hear things like the wealthy don't pay a zero tax rate, and you just say to them hey, man, you can just go to Grok or Gemini or ChatGPT and look that up, That's where I think I have this impulse I have to control to get angry at them, and I don't want to do that. They've been told that for 20 years. You have to kind of take a marketing approach. You got to hear about a product 7 to 20 times before people are going to buy it, and I think I need to incorporate that more.
No, you're doing great, man. You're doing fantastic. I think it's one thing that I always tell people as advice for doing these kind of things is you want to be a better communist than they are. And what I mean by that is you want to actually read the stuff. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of young people who are becoming conservative, getting involved in the movement, or just, believing in it. And the reason why many of them are conservative is solely based off of social media clips, right? And that's a good starting point, but I think that we need to go deeper. I think that conservatives, especially young people, need to go deeper. You need to read the actual documents that made this country, read the Federalist Papers, read Common Sense, read the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights and all these things, read Wealth of Nations, read Thomas Sowell, Milton Friedman, read all this stuff so that we can actually, when a new issue comes up, you can have a more educated opinion on it than just well, what is my favorite podcaster saying about it? And that's what I'm going to believe in. And so I think that we on the right can do better with the education aspect of these kind of things, although it's, no one wants to read anymore and it's a little bit boring. But with that, that also includes the things on the left. Go read everything from the collectivists. Go read Saul Alinsky, all of these things so that you can understand their arguments better. Because when you do that, you're going to find also that you don't get nearly as angry because you understand it so much better. I feel like a lot of people in debates get angry sometimes because they don't fully understand what the other side is saying, and it can be confusing and it can be difficult, right? To counter every point when you've never encountered the material really before. And so actually doing that research, it's tough, it's difficult, but I promise you it is worth it. It makes it so that I'm never nervous when I go on one of those campuses. I feel pretty confident every time I go that whatever someone throws at me, I can have an answer, a response, and if not, have them explain it and then go into a conversation after that.
I'm with you 100%. I tell you, I've never on a live show ever had any fear whatsoever about what a leftist was going to say, because I've heard these same silly arguments regurgitated over and over. School choice sucks money from public school. Really? Public school funding's gone up 400% inflation adjusted dollars since I was born in the 70s. Like, what are you even talking about? You even looked, it's the same tired talking points. Exit question for you. We're talking to Will Witt. Give him a follow at the Will Witt on X. Worth your time. Will, when you're on these college campuses, how many times has this happened to you where, it's over and people line up and, at every event they want to shake your hand or say hello or do a selfie or whatever it may be? How many times they come up to you and say some iteration of like, hey man, I never heard that before. Like, I'm impressed, or where can I find out more? Does that happen a lot? Because that would really warm my heart. I don't do a lot of college campuses. I'm stuck with my schedule. I'm raising 2 daughters, but does that happen a lot?
Of course, man. It's the greatest feeling in the world, where you feel like, oh, I'm not just talking to the echo chamber, or I'm not just having a bunch of leftists come up in a mob and want to, berate me and shout vulgarities at me all day. It's actual people who are having their minds changed. And that's a beautiful thing. I mean, really, that nothing means a world more to me than when that happens. And these Turning Point students in these clubs on campuses, I mean, they're really the best. They're doing it not just on college campuses, but on high school campuses that I go and speak to. And you hear these stories from them of what's happening on their campuses, and it's unbelievable. I mean, that's why I dropped out of college, because of what was happening on my campus. I couldn't believe it, I wanted to go work with Turning Point USA, PragerU, and make these changes. And so when you hear these things that are happening and know that yourself and Turning Point and the other people in this movement who are doing the good work are actually making real changes at these places, I mean, it's truly, truly incredible. I mean, it's a blessing to be able to do all of this and be a part of it. I feel so lucky that this is what I get to do.
And I'll say, just in closing here, I've done a couple, and I did a Turning Point event at Auburn University, an amazing campus for free speech, by the way.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I hadn't been on a college campus in a long time, since I basically, outside of visiting my daughter. I was stunned at how smart they are. I mean, stunned. So they were asking questions about biocontinuity and things like I had been following, but honestly, I'm like, I probably wouldn't have been following with my college self, 20 plus years ago. They really know their stuff. Yeah, they're just amazing. So you guys are doing amazing work. Will, thanks so much for joining us. You have an open invite anytime you got a new book coming out or anything like that, please let us know. The audience really enjoyed that clip the other day. Thanks for, going out there and fighting a good fight. You're one of the Paul Reveres of our time, so we appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, man. That means so much. You're doing a great job too, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy. That was Will Witt, folks. Check out all of his clips. Give him a follow on X at the Will Witt. We got to support these young men and women out there going and fighting a good fight, folks. It's not easy. It's not easy to be a conservative, a MAGA representative, a libertarian, or a Republican on a college campus. It's just not. To go there and fight the good fight every single day. But you see at the end, people come up to him all the time. Thank you for telling me that. Thank you for telling me that. It works. It's our job to be the Paul and Paulette Reveres of our time. Make sure you download the Rumble app. You can check in with us every day at 10 a.m. on Rumble for the live show. We'll pick our comment of the day every day. You already know who that is today. Also, check out Haley. I texted her yesterday. I go, look on your face when I popped in. Dan Bongino, worst timing ever. Hey, sometimes I throw myself under the bus. Check her out at noon, rumble.com/Haley, and the king of morning podcasting, Vince Colonnese, every day at 8 Eastern time, rumble.com/Vince. You can watch on the web. You can watch on your smart TV, rumble.com/Bongino. Download the Rumble app. I will see you back here on Monday.
Hey there, I'm Vince.
I'm Haley Caradia,
Host of Vince.
Host of Scrolling with Haley.
You can always catch my show right here
on the Bongino Report.
Live, 8 a.m. Eastern, weekday mornings.
Weekdays at noon. If you miss it, no worries. The show will always be
right here
and anywhere you find podcasts. Thanks for watching.